All right, so today I want to chat quickly about the 80-20 rule, right? And do you know it? Do you use it? And then how it relates to zone of genius, right? I was having this conversation with a friend of mine over the weekend and talking about 80-20, right? And the fact that he does an 80-20 evaluation of his life and his business every quarter. And I was just like, I know 80-20, but I don't do it every quarter, but I should. And so if you're not familiar, hey, everybody, if you're not familiar with the 80-20 rule, or let me know if you are familiar with the 80-20 rule, but I wanted to share like some different perspectives on this. And so it's Pareto's principles, known as the 80-20 rule. And it states that roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes, right? And so it was this Italian economist named Vilfredo Pareto, who observed this pattern in wealth distribution in an 1896 study. And so, what it exactly found out is that 80% of the land, right, the wealth in the land in Italy in 1896 was owned by just 20% of the population. And then that observation led him to start exploring the distribution of wealth and access and power and resources and work capacity among all these other things in different contexts beyond just economics. And then that became known as a Pareto principle, right? And so there's books on it. There's like, what is the guy, Richard Diablo, like all these things. And so um, and I have applied that in my life, but not nearly as what my friend was telling me that they do an 80-20 evaluation of all aspects of their life every quarter, right? And so in their business, they look at from a product standpoint, which product, is bringing in, is 20% of maybe the cost, but is bringing in 80% of the revenue. In their family life, what are they spending 20% of their time on, but it's bringing 80% of joy and happiness in their life. Or, from a relationship standpoint, from a workload, from a productivity standpoint, and then there's just so much around it, right? And so I was thinking about that with the same thing with genius and getting to your zone of genius and how the quadrant that Gay Hendricks put together helps you eliminate the 80% that is not like helps you eliminate all the things so that you can stay in the pocket of your 20% to yield 80% of everything that you want to come out as a result of the activity that you want to do, the income and the impact that you want to have. And so it just really kind of got me thinking around that, right? Because when you're talking about getting to your zone of genius, it's such deep introspective work about yourself, right? It's asking yourself really deep questions. And y'all know I'm a question person, right? And so asking yourself high quality questions in order to get to like, what am I naturally, innately good at, right? Where do I want to spend the most of my time? Hey, everybody, where do I want to spend the most of my activity? And that by the nature of asking yourself those four questions, right? What is in my zone of incompetence, what is in my zone of competence, what is in my zone of excellence, and then getting to your zone of genius. By doing that, you're essentially going through like Pareto's 80-20 process, because that those questions serve not just as discovery, but they serve as a process of elimination, right? And so you cannot pull genius out of the air. It don't work like that, right? Like you literally have to say, well, what are the things that I don't have no business doing? I suck at doing these things, and write those things down, right? What are the things that I know how to do? I have a level of competence doing, but it's not the best use of my time. I should not be doing it. And you have to outsource those things because a lot of those things still need to get done. They don't need to get done by you, right? And so what are those things? And so getting them out of the way, and then your zone of excellence, which is like your comfort zone, you're really comfortable doing this. You have comfortable money doing this. You have comfortable access. You have comfortable resources. But if you are an extraordinary person and you know that you were set on this earth for extraordinary things to happen as a result of you and things that flow through you, then you know that like you cannot stay in the excellence or the comfort zone box. You really got to do the things that set your soul on fire. And you really got to get to a point where the things that you do give you a sense of flow and ease, and then they give your money a sense of flow and ease as well. And so those 3 boxes serve as you identifying, like, what are the things that you should not be doing, and the 80% of the things that bog us down a lot of times so that we don't ever get to the clarity of, "This is what I should be doing." And if I spend my time in the pocket of my genius, if I spend my time in the pocket of the 20% of what I'm doing, things will really start to take off for me. And a lot of times we don't ever give ourselves enough time to just ask ourselves really deep, introspective questions that, like, when you sit down and ask yourself those questions, they might scare you a little bit, right? Or you may not be able to answer those questions until you get either until you have clarity or until you get rid of all the other things, the other junk that has, like, consumed your mind, right? Who said intrinsic motion, Pareto's principles, 80% of the results, we only come from 20% of what we do, right? And but like identifying what the 20% is that you do that brings you the highest level of value or gets you into the highest level of value, produces the highest level of value for the companies that you work for, the companies that you're building, the things that you're responsible for. Oftentimes people get stuck on that, right? Like, what should I get rid of? What no longer serves me? What's not serving anyone else or anything else for me at the highest value? But I still do it oftentimes because we're people pleasers, right? Or we have some level of people pleasing energy or activity that we do that stops us from truly identifying or giving ourselves even permission to get to that 80/20, right? And so when you think of being able to combine like your zone of genius and the 20% of task or activity that give you the 80% of your results, that's where that's where the dope overlap happens, right? And so, and these are tasks that only you can do, or only the things that you can do in only the way that you can do it, right? Like, you add a little special sauce to the thing that you do, right? There's a little swag to the way that you do these things or show up in the only in that way. And like, one, that is your genius, and that is the 20%. And when you really dive deep into that, I think sometimes people feel like they end up giving up a lot, but oh no, right? Like, you gain so much more, like so much more by identifying what you add the highest value to. And if you're not careful, and I talked about this at in New York when I was in New York on Friday with Black Women Talk Tech. Like, if you're not careful, you end up costing, like, there's opportunity cost, right? You end up costing so much more when you think that you're trying to help. Because, yeah, I could do that, but I'm not the best person to do that, right? The highest level of value that I bring into the family is being able to do X, Y, and Z. If I do these things down here, it's not that I can't do them, but usually you don't produce the best work, right? Usually your time is spent here. And if no one else is doing this stuff here because you're doing this stuff here or here, you end up costing your company, you cost your family, you cost your business way more than you ever anticipated. And it just requires people that are trying to step into new versions of themselves as a leader or new versions of their teams and the companies that they're building. Like, you got to take yourself through that work, right? And so number one was like being able to identify what your zone of genius is. And then number two is like, once you identify what your genius is, whatever it may be, the second part of that is then being able to apply the 80/20 rule. And so saying, okay, this is my genius. And then is this actually the high impact tasks that are in this 20% and that contribute to the majority of the results. And you have to ask yourself that. Sometimes we hold on to things much longer than we should. I'm working on a project right now, and it is very deep in, we need to do an 80/20 evaluation because we're expending ourselves more into more resources and more things into doing this thing, and it's not yielding the results that we expect. As opposed to this other part of the project that we're working in, we have exerted far less resources into this thing, and it's yielding the results that we absolutely need. And it's kind of like a touchy project, so like, we don't want to get rid of the thing, but it is not working for us, right? And so being able to have like those vulnerable, transparent conversations with yourself, but then also giving yourself like a framework around this to be able to say like, hey, I have new process, a framework or language that I can use to with myself, but then also with my team in order to be able to figure that out. All right. And then the third part is being able to combine both of those things, which I shared, right? Once you found both your zone of genius and the 20% of tasks or activities that give you 80% of your results, you see where they overlap. And these are the tasks that you not only love doing and are freaking amazing at doing, but you also feel like you're the best in the world to do the thing in only the way that you do that thing. And then you have a high level of confidence in the way that you do that. And what is the root word of confidence, right? The root word of confidence means to confide, and confide means to trust. And so confidence isn't like this big bravado, Elon Musk, Kanye West, like energy, Tiger King energy. It simply means, do you trust yourself to be able to deliver at the quality in which your genius and your gifts deserve? And and if you can say yes to that, then that is your genius, right? Because it has to do with being confident enough to show up and show out, be confident enough to deliver, be confident enough, and when it requires you to over deliver, you can deliver. And that doesn't take away from anyone else saying that that is their thing too, but you are confident enough in saying, in this moment, and whatever this problem is, I am the best person with the best solution, the best heart, and the best passion to solve this problem in this time. And if you have that level of confidence and combining both of those, you're really on to something. And so by focus, and I'm reading what I wrote, right? And so by focusing more on these overlapping tasks, you're effectively optimizing your time, your energy, and your resources, leading to greater productivity, satisfaction, and like your genius level of income comes as a result of that, right? And then the number four is achieving freedom, right? So by focusing on your zone of genius and following the Pareto's 80-20 rule, you will be more productive and more effective. You are in the pocket of the 20%, but you're going to yield so much more than being all over the place and all distracted. And we've all been there and we know what that feels like, right? It's so exhausting and then draining on the body and in the mind that you can't even focus. And you feel like you're doing so much more than you really are, but you're not having any form of momentum. You're going around like this, right? You're kind of going in circles, or you're going like all over the place. And you want to have like a sense of ease and flow and alignment. And like that's why I get so frustrated when people are talking like 80, like what is it, work-life balance. I'm like, work-life balance is BS. It does not exist. And you will like go around in this crazy hamster wheel trying to achieve something that is unachievable. It is unachievable, right? Or unachievable. Anyways, it's unachievable, right? And society and corporations and products are constantly selling us at trying to achieve something that does not make sense. You will not you do not have a need for work-life balance if you are aligned. And so a lot of these processes, and there's all kind of people that teach all kind of things. Pareto's 80-20, Gay Hendricks Zone of Genius, like I can go on and on and on. And they're all trying to help you get the clarity that you need, but you got to choose. And so many of us are all over the place because we feel like we need to do all the things in order to achieve the thing that we want. No, you do not. You stay in the pocket of your genius. You operate in the top 20% of the value that you can bring that super serves others and then super serves yourself. And the rest of that you outsource. And the power about being able to outsource and why I have been screaming this from the mountaintops is because there was a level of freedom in my body and freedom in my business, freedom in my mind, freedom in my family when I realized that I should not be doing everything, cannot do everything, don't want to do everything. But in the things that I don't want to do and the things that are not within my zone of genius, the things that are in the 80% that was bogging me down, but not bringing yielding the success or the resources or the fund or any of that. What I realize is when I outsource, I empower other businesses. And when I outsource, I become a much greater resource to the people that I intended to help to begin with, because I'm getting them the best person that can help them and the best person that is going to show up in their genius, which is my zone of incompetence. It does not serve anyone for you to pretend that things are your genius just so that you can, maintain the relationship. Like pass that thing on to somebody else. Be a resource for somebody else. Put somebody else on, but it's also very freeing to say, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. I am not the person to do that. I am not the best person to do that. And I've found myself saying that so much more. And it relaxes you and your body. It releases the anxiety of that you have of trying to pretend or push yourself into something that is not created or meant for you. And it super serves being able to alley-oop that to somebody else. There's a reason that there are forwards on the basketball court, and is a reason that there are point guards. Can the forward shoot from the 3-point line? Yes. Is the likelihood of them making the shot 9 times out of 10 high? Probably not. Right. And vice versa. Should the scrawny person that is on the 3-point line be the forward or be the center? Can they be? Possibly? Should they be? Is a team going to win every single time as a result of that? Can that person defend themselves against a 6'5"? She could, like, no. And so if we understand that, and I played basketball most of my life, so that's where the basketball reference comes. But if we understand that there is a position that you play based off of your experience, your innate ability, sometimes your height, sometimes your weight, sometimes your physiology, like sometimes based off of your instincts, sometimes based off of the mistakes that you've had that you can now prevent other people from having, and that there's a position that you play on the court because you're playing to your strengths, why would you do anything else? You would literally just be getting in the way. You would literally be jeopardizing things 9 times out of 10. So stop doing that shit. And I'm trying to stop cursing, but every now and then it requires that, right? So let's stop doing that to other people. But more than anything, stop doing that to ourselves. All right. So number 4 is achieving freedom. By focusing on your zone of genius and following the 80-20 rule, you will be more productive and damn sure more effective. And you will find that you need less time to achieve the same or better results. And to me, like, that is always the game changer around this, right? Like when you were in your flow state, when you have defined what your uninterrupted life looks like, when you are like genius uninterrupted, when you are operating in that top 20% as a result of your genius and your gifts, the things that are in the pocket of that require far less time and far less effort. Far less time and far less effort from you and the people that are around you. That's where that sense of flow comes from in the body and in the mind, because you don't have to second guess this. You know this. It becomes real natural to you. It's like second nature to you as well. Why don't you want that for yourself? Because I want that for you. And I want that for myself, and I want that for my husband, and I want that for my kids, and I want that for my family. I damn sure want that for my friends and my business partners and my team. Like, why don't we want that for ourselves? And that comes from like finding a moment in our life, maybe today, maybe that's the homework from this today, right? Is to find a quiet place, your favorite place in your room, in your house, in your home, in your office, in your apartment, in your car. Like, find that place and give yourself the stillness to go through that. Like, what is taking up 80% of my time? What is causing 80% of the stress, but not yielding the results that I needed? How can I get rid of that? How can I stop doing that? What are the tough conversations that I need to have? What are the easy conversations I need to have as well that will allow me to operate in the 20% that yields the 80% of results? Like, I want you to want that for yourself more than anything. And then number 5 on this list, right? Comparing or combining zone of genius and Pareto's 80-20 rule, because these things go so deeply together that it is mind-boggling. The number 5 is genius level income. And so when you operate in your zone of genius, you're likely to deliver high quality work, which can lead to higher demand in your services, potentially allowing you to command a higher income, raise the rates, right? As a result of you being in your genius and being able to perform at the highest level possible and deliver the highest level of value to others. And furthermore, by focusing on the 20% of activity that yields 80% of the results with flow and ease, you're maximizing your return on investment, which can lead to greater financial reward. And so let me go to the comments, but I'm going to post this list. I'm gonna try and post it in the comments, but it's kind of long when I save this video. But if not, I'll probably just post it on my LinkedIn or something. I'll figure that out and I'll let you know. And so just UFA, it's so freeing. It's almost like you time travel. Oof. It is almost like you time travel. It is definitely collapsing time to be in your zone of genius. It also allows you to buy back your time, right? And when we're talking about standing in like wealth energy, so much of that is buying back time because we know that time is a commodity that none of us get back. When you waste your time on things that are not yielding the results based off of what your gifts are, you are expending so much more. And remember, there's a limit to time. You don't have an infinite amount of time. None of us have an infinite amount of time. And so why spend that time on, I always like to use, I can't remember the lady's name and I feel bad because we were in a program, mastermind together, that talked about like the the low vibrational energy or activity versus the high vibrational activity and energy. Wanting to operate in that instance, in that energy, in that pocket at all times is what we should be striving for because it helps everybody, but it really helps ourselves not be as tired. But being able to buy back your time, like that is the hack, that is the play. And that only comes from you outsourcing, right? Hey, Carrie, love this. All right. This is so good. Thank you for sharing. I'm just going through the comments because I got to jump off in a few minutes for a call. Had end. Today has been one of those days when it's just like, what does it say? Try Jesus, don't try me. It's been one of those days, y'all, but it's getting better. It's getting better. Seville, I hope you save this because I'll definitely save it. Let me get through the comments because I felt like there was a question. Just do the best 20% and resource the 80. I'm gonna make that correction, masters, and maybe that's what you meant, right? But do your best 20% and outsource the 80%. You can hire other people, you can outsource and support other businesses, but we have to be thinking about that, right? How do I become a leader and build more leaders as a result of that by staying in the pocket of my genius, by being in the 20% that yields the 80%? Like who does not want that? And so I feel like Ray Diablo, and I think I'm saying his name right. I feel like I have his book in my husband's library that he calls his success library. So hopefully you got a success library in your house. But I think Ray Diablo did a book on the 80-20 principles that is really good. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Ray's book. Asking ourselves what is it costing us when we operate outside our zone of genius is so phenomenal. Why? Because many of us know the price of everything and the cost of nothing. Like things are costing us so much more than we think, right? If when you go to a pitch meeting, and I gave this example on Friday, but when you go to if you're pitching and you're bringing in money or you're bringing in business for your company, and say when you go out and you nail it off the park, it's costing, you bring in $100,000, throwing a number out there, you bring in $100,000 into your business every time you do that, right? Or when you are maybe in a sales role within the corporation that you work for and it's bringing in 100,000, but then like the next day you're setting up at like a conference and then you're running the table. And I'm not belittling the person that runs the table, but like if you are not having conversations at that table that bring in at least $100,000, but you think like, hey, let me just go run this table really quick for an hour or two because it's going to save the company $40 or $50. No, it's not saving the company $40 or $50. It's costing the company $100,020 for whatever hour that you spend, because your greatest value, right? Your greatest value to the company is the role that you play, the thing that you do, and only the way that you do. And when you show up in the pocket of that, it brings $100,000 into the business. And so anything that is not doing that, or not nurturing that sales process, not nurturing those relationships, is costing the company $100,000 an hour. It's not costing the company $10 an hour. It's not costing you $20 or $40 an hour that you think that you're saving. You are costing your company thousands and potentially millions of dollars. And I had to realize that when we ran our food company, my husband and I ran our food company with our friend Joe for 7 years, like me being in the kitchen, making the product, was costing the business money. Why? Because nobody else was working on marketing and no one can communicate the value like the way that I could communicate the value. No one could tell the founder story the way that I could. No one can help take a customer that wanted to buy 100, pops and have the conversation with them that turned that into 5,000. No one had that gift, right? But I was in the kitchen making product because I felt like that's what I needed to do. And when I realized that, financially, it really took off for the company. But then more than anything, I love my company more because I was actually doing the work that set my soul on fire and that was connected to my genius. Me being in the kitchen, making the product, yeah, it could save time, but we could have hired somebody, right? And ended up hiring more people to increase productivity and increase manufacturing because I was bringing the money in that allowed us to be able to make those hiring decisions. It was not the best use of my time. It's not the best use of your time doing the things that are not yielding the results that you need to, but you got to get clarity on what the results are. You got to get clarity on your position and your role, on how you bring the highest value into any and everything that you work on, and I'm committing to that, right? Like where I started the conversation, where my friend was doing, there's an 80-20 evaluation of their life and their business every quarter. And I was just like, I may do that once a year at the end of the year and sometimes in between, but committing to doing it once a quarter, maybe even once a month, because so many things start to seep in. All right, I think I got all the questions. How do you suggest we overcome people pleasing habits? Ooh, I'm gonna do another live on that. But a lot of the things that I mentioned today is how you overcome that. Because sometimes you don't even realize that you're people pleasing because you haven't assessed the value that you actually bring into relationships and environments. And sometimes the most empowering thing that you can do to people around you that depend on you quite a bit is to tell them no. I cannot do it. It's not the best use of my time. Let me find someone that can help you and do these things for you. I've had some interesting life experiences with doing that. Cause like, let me just like a friend asked me to help them move. I am not the person to ask to help move. Do not ask, Felicia. But I understand my friend needed help in that moment. So I was just like, let me hire somebody off of TaskRabbit for you, like a mover off of TaskRabbit. Because if I come, we gonna end up sitting on the floor and talking and like reminiscing on photos and stuff, right? Or it's not the best use of my time, but you still want to be able to support somebody. So like, let me get you the best help possible that is also efficient, right? That knows how to do this in their sleep. Because if you ask me, it's going to, instead of taking 5 hours, it's going to take 10, might even take 20, right? And so I'm being a little facetious, but that was a real experience. A friend asked me to move. I'm like, I'm not the best person to do that. I will come and we will have fun, but let me just use a few extra dollars and hire someone who they have a level of mastery in doing that. And it hopefully, and by doing so, instead of the thing taking 5 hours, it should only take 2.5 because that is their thing. Right. All right. I gotta go because now I'm 3 minutes late for this call. I will make sure I save this for you so that you can not only stay in the pocket of your genius, but then you can start implementing Pareto's 80-20 principles, especially when you combine them things together. Like things are going to take off for you. So, all right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.